Hello and welcome to this episode of Hospitality Talks. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Katy Moses, founder and MD of KAM Media. And today's guest is Stefan Cosser from Restaurant Brands Collective. Stefan, would you like to just introduce yourself for anybody out there who you haven't worked with before and doesn't know Restaurant Brands Collective?
Yep, thanks. I'm the co-founder of Restaurant Brands Collective, which is what we're talking about today. But then I'm also co-founder of Ex-Soldiers, a food consultancy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Stefan. Now, Stefan, let's talk briefly about Restaurant Brands Collective. Who are they? What have they done? I have interviewed your colleagues before, so people out there may well have seen those. But if they haven't, how would you describe yourselves and what you do?
Yep, so we set up in August last year. And it's something we've been thinking about for a long time of helping businesses, predominantly in delivery, but also do dine-in menus, where we create the menus, we create the brands, the online presence, the training material, the supply chain, and so on. And we help our operators launch and then manage that going forward.
Fantastic, thank you. So talk to me about virtual brands, because virtual brands can be seen as a bit of a dirty word, but actually it's something that's gaining momentum, especially since the pandemic.
Yeah, I think virtual brands definitely can be a dirty word when businesses are trying to pretend they are something they're not and trying to do many different brands in the kitchen that might not come natural to them. So we do this for a living. We create menus, we create food and brands. And what we're trying to do here is help operators not have to worry about all of that. So we do the food normally, but now we're adding on the brand bit and the online presence. And we want to make sure that the food is as good as it can be. And to do that, we're tying that together with the brand, and we manage both of those parts for operators.
And for operators, you know, especially coming out of the pandemic and convincing people to come back into hospitality, you know, creating compelling reasons to visit is going to be paramount. How do your brands help with that area?
Yeah, and it's difficult both online and in person when you're dining in. So first and foremost is the food. The food has to taste good. The food can't be cheap on supply chain and ingredients, and it has to be right. So that's what we've done for a long time. So we're chefs by trade, and we want to make sure the food is as good as it can be. But then in delivery and online, doing or living up to that experience is difficult. There's no one there to guide you through the menu. There's no one there to talk to you about the food or upsell a special or talk about the cash of the day and so on. So with online menus, we make sure the menus are quite short and sharp. So we know that people genuinely will want to get the dishes that they trust and won't be too adventurous for new foods. Then we want to make sure with packaging that the packaging delivers that experience to home. So where we've gone and developed burgers, we're using big, nice, chunky burger boxes that open up into a plate and make the experience better. And where we've got Mac & Co, so our mac and cheese brand, we've gone down this sort of Victorian apothecary feel with the brand, and it feels quite fun and old school. So we give the customer a little bag with a Mac topper, a crispy topping, so the customer can then open the bag and sprinkle on top.
Brilliant.
Gives a little bit of connection there. And then for the dine-in offers, when brands do operate the brands, operators operate the brands on site, we've got photography, we've got the POS material there to help them really sell that on site and make it appealing and get customers to understand what they're offering.
Yeah. And of course, coming out of this pandemic and you know, with the long-awaited reopening, there are some sort of operational areas that hospitality operators are really going to have to look at, and one of those, and you know, you and I have discussed this before, would be making their menu work harder. What does that look like when we come out of this pandemic and reopen?
Yeah, well, it'll be different for every operator, but making menus work harder, this is what we do as a day job in Ex-Soldiers. So this is what I've done for the best part of a decade now, working with operators and making sure the food, the menus, the kitchens, the training, everything is as good as it can be. So we would often go in and help people do that by, first off, tasting the food, taste the food and make sure it is where it should be, it is delivering what people expect. We then model up the sales, the dishes, make sure every dish is pulling its weight, understand service killers, so are there certain dishes that are making service very difficult or throwing a bit of a curveball during service. And then we go more into the back of house of understanding the equipment, the layout of the kitchen, and making sure that that's as good as it can be. Generally, there's no silver bullet in doing this. It's a combination of tactics, and always involves developing some new dishes, improving other dishes, and then making sure the team are fully trained, filling in any gaps that are in training to make sure the food is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Then going into kitchen and layout and making sure that the kitchen is set up to deliver that.
And one of the areas that I believe is an opportunity for reopening hospitality is driving footfall during different day parts, because I think that, you know, people are going to want to go, you know, from a safety perspective, maybe be in restaurants and bars and pubs when they're slightly quieter. We're obviously going to see a lot more people still working from home, even if that's, you know, just for a certain fraction of the week. What, you know, talk to me about driving day parts and how operators can do that on reopening.
Yeah, so I think breakfast is clearly going to be a big area of growth. We see that now in delivery. We see people buying a lot of breakfast for delivery, weekend brunches. That's something that suddenly appeared in the last 6-8 months, really. And I think as we get back to work, people aren't going to be going into the office as much. I think we'll still take a time to get used to going back into the office. So working from the local coffee shop, working from the local pub, and guests will be experiencing or expecting food offers and to be catered to.
And how can Restaurant Brands Collective help with those particular areas that we've just discussed then? So if you're talking about driving day parts, making a menu work harder, you know, how does RBC support operators to do that?
Yeah, so we've got, I think, 5 brands live now, and we started off with the brands that we know are going to be generally the biggest wins. So it's the big blockbuster dishes of burgers and fried chicken and pizza and so on. So for most operators, these would be the big wins to start off with. But then we've got a hit list of other brands, other dishes, other occasions that we want to develop up. So lunch being a big one, so lighter lunch dishes. As I said, breakfast before. I think even areas like gifting would be interesting. But why wouldn't you go onto Deliveroo and buy things for people ad hoc, catering for office parties? And you can even see it going into kids' birthday parties, that you could go on to Deliveroo and buy things in for birthday parties. So I think delivery in general is going to shake up quite a lot in the coming years, and there's quite a few untapped opportunities there to go after.
And then just to finish off, and in your experience, what do you think so other than delivery and the idea of doing some menu optimization, what do you think the opportunities are with reopening and going forward into 2021 and 2022 and beyond for hospitality? Sorry, not just in the world. What opportunities for hospitality are there?
It's quite a broad question, I think. It's difficult to know, really. I think it'll take time for customers to get used to going back out again. But then when we do get out, people want experiences, people want to try things. We're going to be traveling less, so more staycations, more experience in the food. So I think all around, all operators delivering more of an experience, spend per head probably going up. And we're seeing that in quite a few businesses we're working with, where people want to go out and try new things and sort of celebrate being let loose. Yes,
well, absolutely. I will be doing exactly that as soon as we can. Stefan, thank you so much. It's really great to have your experience and your knowledge and being able to impart that to anybody out there that's watching and maybe wants to understand what those opportunities are for driving day parts and for optimization of your menu, etc. Thank you for spending the time to talk to me.